Hello, welcome to Atlas Business Solutions presentation on cybersecurity and cyber insurance, part 2. If you haven't watched our video on part 1, it is about what managers should know and often don't know about cybersecurity. Follow the click below to watch it now. If you're coming from part 1, then part 2 is about what risks are new for cybersecurity and what risks are increasing that could affect your business. Leading threats and prevention for 2025. These are from statistics that were compiled during 2024 of new and increasing threats to businesses from cybersecurity attackers and hazards around the world. One new term that you may not have heard before is vishing. Vishing is voice phishing. And if you're not familiar with phishing, it is those emails that you get where people try to get you pretend to be your bank, pretend to be some other business that you do business with, so that you cough up your ID and password, and somebody can take over your account and make transactions on your behalf, withdrawals from your account, charges to your credit card, whatever. Vishing is based on the new technologies of AI, which can simulate in very good replication actual human voice. And often voice phishing is used in an attempt to get employees to share their access or data with the attacker. For example, you may get a call if you're working from home or in a remote office from somebody claiming to be your IT, representing your IT department, asking you to give some access to your computer or your password or email. The conversation seems very natural. The voice is very articulate. There's no noticeable accent to it. In very sophisticated cases, and you may have seen these on the news, if, for instance, your manager has been at a conference where a video recording was made of his or her presentation, a voice phishing attack could actually even simulate and replicate their voice in terms of its tone, its cadence, its mannerisms, to have a conversation with you in real time to get you to, for instance, go and authorize a payment or change a payment information pay a purchase order, any of these sorts of things. Because this technology is new, there has been an increase in 2024 over previous years of like 442%. Cybersecurity training, standard operating practice manuals, video calls are ways to deal with this. But people just need to be aware that this technology is available and can be exploited. If we look back a couple of years, we find that phishing attacks were about 12% effective. But now with new AI technology, they are in the neighborhood of 40% effective. So this is kind of amazing technology that we need to be aware of. The second new threat is generative AI. So again, using extensive gathering of data about a company's organization, its employees, practices, possibly video recordings of employees giving presentations, gathering emails, other communications. The new technology will allow social engineering attacks, generating phishing attacks that are much more likely to be successful because people will find them much more believable. The third new attack is access brokers. What do we mean by that? Well, particularly in the United States, where virtual work is more common. I know many businesses where employees only get together once a year at an annual conference, and they will work at all corners of the country the rest of the year. So they may know each other from video calls, but most of the time they just communicate using chat or email. But if you are a business that hires remote workers, offshore workers in particular, but also remote workers within the country, they once they are hired on and may have access to your account, to your corporate accounts, may actually sell their access to a third party, possibly a state actor in China or Korea, North Korea, or somewhere else. Or they may themselves be a state actor for some other country, and they will sell that access to another cyber attack organization. This has grown about 50% in the last year. And the way to counteract this attack is by making sure that you physically, or at least by a video call, screen new associates, that you actually see them in person, that you build a relationship with them, that you form that relationship. They're not just anonymous people. Do thorough reference checks and security checks on them. If possible, even if you're hiring them from the other side of the country, bring them to your job site or go to them to interview them in their local environment, so that you can get the sense of whether they are being authentic or not. Another increasing threat vector is cloud intrusion. Many businesses today are using Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace to manage their email, their shared documents, their virtual meetings, chats, other common business resources. But they may also have access to on-site data storage. Maybe there's a file server on the premises. Attackers will often use a valid cloud account to leverage management tools for lateral access. By this, we mean that they will, if they can phish your M365 account or your Google Workspace account, and then get access to the environment in that way, they can then check on the drive material, they can see whose files are being shared with who, and they can then try to phish one of your colleagues pretending to be you, so that they can expand and grow that connection and possibly even reach down into your on-site data stores, your file servers, maybe have an online or an on-premise Exchange server, and get access that way. Tools to stop this would include monitoring and testing cloud systems, limit data apps and sharing with business partners. A key tool in the cloud intrusion is most businesses today have partnerships with or rely on services provided by other companies, often IT companies. For example, your website may have an inventory system that is managed by some other company, a chatbot that maybe comes from another vendor. If some attacker can get access to those vendor systems that can then leverage lateral access into your account, then it's pretty easy for your account to fall as well. One of the tools that is really useful, if you haven't used it already, is Have I Been Pawned? Notice the spelling of the word pawned in the slide. That's from a video gaming term where one player owns all the other competitors in the field. But with that website, you can actually check to see if your email has been shared or compromised by anybody else, and what data has been shared. And if so, and if it happens recently, you can then change your password at the minimum, but at least you understand where your compromises could be. Peripheral penetrations is almost pretty new in 2024. I mean, it existed a little bit before, but not anywhere to the same effect. And so this is accessing low-level priority devices like scanners, printers, network devices, video conference device points as point of entry into a network. Now, as early as 2017, there was an example of hackers accessing a fish tank in a casino and then using that bridgehead to compromise the data systems of the entire casino. But for the most part, this is pretty new in terms of the scope and extent of this sort of attack. We can prevent this, or at least manage this to some extent, by using better endpoint detection and response software. These used to be known as antivirus software, but endpoint detection response is much more comprehensive than that. Endpoint detection response will actually report back to a central server that computer has been compromised. It will attempt to remove the malicious software, and if it can't, it'll report back to a central, usually an IT department, that computer is compromised, and will either turn off that computer's access to the network, or we can limit that access in some other way. Other ways to prevent this sort of attack from peripheral penetration include network monitoring and network segmentation. So one of my clients has a fairly extensive video surveillance system in their environment. They cheaped out on finding cheapest cameras they could find, which generally are Chinese cameras. But we have put them into their own network segmentation so that those devices cannot access any of the other corporate environments, not even the HVAC systems for the buildings, certainly not the office environments and data systems and other networks that the organization relies upon. This network segmentation, also known as virtual local area networks or VLANs, we make sure that those cameras only ever can talk to their local monitoring server. But when I look through the log files for that client, there is a lot of traffic of cameras trying to send some data out somewhere to an IP number external to the network that is built into their hard code. So network segmentation is a very useful tool to try to stop this sort of attack. SaaS. So SaaS stands for Software as a Service. And software as a service exploits. Typically, we think of SaaS most often as either Google Workspace or Microsoft 365. There are other SaaS solutions as well. Anything that you subscribe to that is a website or a remote service that you have to log into and then use those services. Many CRM systems are SaaS solutions. The attack looks like this. If we can compromise a user's single sign-on credentials, so oftentimes when you go onto a new site, it'll ask you, would you like to create a new account? Would you like to use your Microsoft 365 account? Would you like to use your Google account? Often there's maybe a couple of other choices. And who doesn't want to pick yes? Because why should I remember all these passwords? If you can use my Google account, or you can use my Microsoft 365 account to provide credentials to this service to authenticate me, that just makes it so much easier for me. However, if one of those sites is compromised, and if, for instance, I'm able, and it tricks me into providing my credentials to this attack, then my entire Google environment or my entire M365 environment crashes as well, because my password is what is in common across logging into all of those systems. So if I am aware of it right away, I can change my password right away and minimize the impact. But if I happen to be careless, an attacker can gain a lot of access to a lot of systems by using these SaaS single sign-on credentials. Again, it's up about 18% year over year. How to manage this? Strong identity management tools, hardened multi-factor authentication. Oftentimes we kind of do the minimum when it comes to multi-factor authentication. Yeah, okay, you know, I'll send you a code to your email. There, good. Yeah, thanks. But if we make it a little harder so that you have to authenticate using your smartphone device or other ways to authenticate you, then we can prevent the SaaS exploit from becoming the threat that it is. Cybersecurity training is always a great idea for any of these sorts of attacks, because it helps your users become more familiar and more understanding of the risks that they are facing. That's it for my update for 2025 from increase in risks from 2024. To prove to you that I'm not just making this stuff up, here are two of my sources that I use to put this report together. These are probably 80-90% of what was covered in the last few pages. And so thank you very much. If you have any questions or would like to talk to Atlas Solutions about doing a cybersecurity risk assessment for your business, please reach out to us at atlassolutions.ca. The URL is on the top corner of the screen. And we would be happy to help you, talk with you, understand your needs and respond to those needs. We can also partner to help get you certified and qualified for cybersecurity insurance if you do not have a cybersecurity insurance provider, or we will work with your existing IT provider to minimize your risks so that you can avoid and reduce the risks of you being attacked and hacked and possibly locked out of business for a period of time by some cybersecurity actor. Thank you so very much. Bye.